Hey everyone, welcome to Frax Check, your weekly Frax vibe check. I'm your host, DeFi Dave, and I'm subbing in for Capital K today. Sorry, let me, I want to center this more. All right, let me, okay. Just.
Are you on a vertical screen or something?
On a vertical screen? What do you mean?
Well, this Frax Check thing,
Oh, it got smaller?
Yeah, it got smaller.
It's weird.
It's got black.
Oh, because let me, oh shoot. How's that look?
That's better. There we go. Yeah, this is much better.
Okay, I'm just going to go between these two screens. Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Should we change it to the 21st? Or is this for yesterday? Just do yesterday's thing.
We can just do yesterday.
Okay.
Hey everyone, welcome to Frax Check, your weekly Frax vibe check. I'm your host, DeFi Dave, and I'm subbing in for Capital K today. As always, I'm joined by our producer extraordinaire, Sam. We're going straight to the source of truth via checking the chain. Before we jump in, please subscribe to Flywheelpod and follow us on Twitter and TG at Flywheelpod. Now, just some forewarning, this week we down horrendous. Big F. But as always, we remain objective and report the real. Now let's begin. With the peg over here. We saw it get as low as 0.998 with a high of $1 this week. Peg check is strong, so quite bullish even with the general market drawdown. We then took a look at curve swapping, 100 million Frax for USDC. We switched up since the Frax BP is now larger than Frax 3 CRV. We receive a 0.9992 exchange rate. And now moving on to our collateral ratio. All right. This is a percentage that conveys how much FXS algorithmic, the algorithmic part, is used as collateral. With the market drawdown, it's expected that the collateral ratio will increase increase by nearly 2% to 92.5%. Following, we have a decentralized ratio. Let's see, we saw a market drop down to 15% this week from 17.9%, and so now it's sitting at 15.2%. This is the largest drop we've seen since starting Frax Check. We should probably look into what's going on here, but most likely it's an increase in USDC holdings.
And also the drop in Frax shares.
And also the drop in Frax. Okay, quick summary. Let's see. See a quick summary over here. Quick summary. We got the health check. Peg, good. Curve swap, good. Collateral ratio up week over week. Decentralized ratio, that needs a little bit of monitoring, seeing what's going on there. But, it is the market.
This is what it is.
It is what it is.
Bear market vibes.
Yeah. Yeah. Now let's jump into the AMO holdings. We have a grand total of $678 million worth of holdings across all the AMOs. This was a drop of 17.2% compared to last week. Ouch. The biggest drop was in the Curve AMO, which decreased by $100 million.
It's tough.
Yeah,
but it was.
Yeah, tough week. Oh, man. On to the profits. Recall that we just finished the second week of the CRV and CVX rewards, but again, the Vodium epoch just closed, so we had to pay up the bribes. So we're down 660K, but we're going to finish the month strong since the next Vodium epoch is after September. Now we got a quick summary of the money check. AMO holdings was $678 million. Down 17.2%, lots of pain. I expect us to be profitable for the month of September, maybe around 500K. Now here's my favorite section of the Frax Check, the liquidity check. My fellow Fraxmalists, we have prematurely celebrated our flippening as of this week. Tough week. The base pool has lost its crown. The Frax base pool is now at 842 million versus the 3 pool, which is back up as the king at 866 million. However, the Frax base pool is still much larger than the Frax 3 CRV pool. The base pool saw a decrease of 5.3% in TVL. The base pool is 97% of the 3 pool. Tune in to next week for this head-to-head race continuing, seeing what happens next. Oh, man. Now let's transition to the meta pools. Reminder, the meta pool are the pools that are paired with the base pool. Examples are, LUSD to Frax BP and other ones. We saw a modest increase of 1.7% in the meta pool this week. Looking forward to seeing what projects are using the meta pool next. So some good news, a little bit. Got to take your wins where you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Summary time, Liquidity Check. Frax BP is at 843 million, which is 97% of the 3 pool. The meta pool crossed 61.4 million, marking a 1.7% increase over last week. And lastly, the main reason why all of this is to make sure that the Frax supply could grow as large as possible, but regrettably we are down 7.2%, now at $1.361 billion worth of Frax in circulation, or 1.361 billion Frax in circulation. But no worries, onward and upward we march. You can't. You're gonna have these down weeks. It's uninventable, but it's not about how you're down. It's about how you get back up. But let's move on to the governance roundup. And actually, let me stop sharing my screen. There we go. Tough week.
Yeah, very tough week, yeah.
Oh, man.
But, Stable Salon happened this week, so.
Stable Salon happened, which was a massive success. For those who attended, thank you for coming to the first ever Stable Salon. Honestly, it was one of the more high signal events. I'm maybe biased just because I organized it, but that I attended, everyone there, I felt came out of it, meeting someone new who taught them something they didn't realize before. I feel like everybody, engaged in very, I don't know how else to say it, but engaging conversations with each other. So it was a special event for sure, and I'm excited to host more of those in the future. Bring on more Frax devs or maybe other people in the ecosystem like threaders and other projects to have these fireside chats.
Yeah. And then Bloomberg came and dropped the ball on you.
Yeah. What are the fucking chances? Oh, my God. Literally the same day before we get into the governance roundup, and this kind of and it will lead into it, the same day as Stable Salon, we had Bloomberg come out with a report about a draft of legislation about a stablecoin bill that would put a ban on quote-unquote Terra-like algorithmic stablecoins for being created for at least 2 years. So on the face of it, the bill looks bad.
It doesn't look great.
It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't look great. Go ahead.
But it's still an early stage. Nothing's been published yet, so
yeah, it's literally a draft, and people were farming clout on Twitter based off of it just to FUD Frax.
I think it's something that the industry is going to have to figure out. I mean, one of the things that we can. I think it's clear at this point that the Frax team can build like nothing else, right? They have the best builders in this space, but the thing that we're going to have to fight against. I mean, it's always the end boss is going to be the government, right? To get any sort of legitimacy in being able to use Frax.
You can either look at it as fight or work with or work alongside. It's two different ways. There's two different ways to look at it.
Yeah.
And two different ways to frame things, whether it's how Frax goes across its messaging now, especially to, people outside of our stablecoin land and outside of DeFi and outside of crypto. How do you that's one of the reasons why we started this podcast and have things like Stable Saloon. It's how can we have things more digestible to the outside audience, and also how can we present ourselves as, we're doing serious monetary experimentation. It isn't just Ponzi games.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, how can you build a better form of money?
I think but the thing is that our opponents don't want better forms of money. They want.
Yeah, that's true.
They want.
You're the money moves, man. So
Yeah, I've read a lot of these papers from some of these economists and legal theorists, and the orthodox position is not one of allowing competition in the money space. They want a monopolized environment, and it's not for your bank accounts or something. I mean, that's pretty well regulated at this point. It's mostly in this token-based money. And so when you look at what we're developing, even USDC, I mean, for the orthodox USDC people, for orthodox, people in the Biden administration or, kind of left-leaning, even USDC is controversial and they think it should be shut down, right? Because it represents a new era of wildcat banks, which I don't agree with. And I think competition in the money space is healthy. Mm-hmm. If from the most recent podcast that we just published yesterday with Dr. George Selgin, he said that people turn towards private money when government money is not able to. It just fails, right? It just sucks at some point because it's a monopoly. They're not creative about what they're doing, and they're not able to support. Like, there's never ever going to be a CBDC that's going to be able to live on Ethereum like USDC does. So
yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
It is a fight. I hope that we start. We did this Gitcoin thing, but maybe we need to start up like a pack, like a Frax pack, or stable pack,
yeah,
Algo-Stable pack, right? It
could
be like
pack.
Us and the remnants of whatever UST has. maybe
I don't know about that. Maybe like the refugees of UST.
Yeah, like
bring them on board.
We can pair together with Maker to go out and lobby Congress for better stablecoin regulations and the ability to compete.
Yeah, honestly, DC is just its own game and requires its own resources and own people. They speak a different language.
Yeah.
Like, how like people deep in crypto and deep in DeFi and degen land have their own nuances and language. Like DC is the same way. They have, I think it requires people that, know how to, the lingua franca of both communities in both worlds.
Yeah.
And I just remember go ahead.
Yeah, no, finish up.
I said I remember when I went to D.C. and I was there for one day at a conference, and it was nice, getting to know aides and congressmen, and hearing like what they think, and it was like cool. I talked to them for a day, but there two things. Like one, they don't like fully understand it. They're definitely like people I talked to were like definitely interested, and I feel like I had a light bulb go on in their head, but they're just like worrying and caring about so much other stuff like on their platter. So I think it's like also up to, us as a community to make some noise, the same way we did when the infrastructure bill came out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit different in the stablecoin space because, the dollar is the U.S. government's kind of baby, mm-hmm. right? I mean, they own it, right? And when you're creating non-government controlled dollars, I think it starts to rile them. You saw Tether get that lawsuit brought, or like they have to. They have to go to disclosure with their documents, right? Yeah.
I think there's just like generally an all-out like enforcement regulatory push happening at this moment between the stablecoin stuff coming out yesterday. A few days ago, we had Gary Gensler in the SEC, saying the Ian Bellina papers that all of Ethereum is under U.S. jurisdiction because most Ethereum nodes are in the U.S. So like all the transactions, which is an insane insinuation to make, in my opinion. That's really dramatic. Compared to what are you going to say?
The default thinking for these people is that it doesn't matter what is being created, whether it's USDC or Tether or Frax or anything else. Their belief, it's a naive belief, is that like all these systems are going to fail eventually. The peg is going to break. There'll be a bank run, and then consumers will be left holding the bag. It's a very like simple and naive belief based on things that happened back in the 1920s and 30s, and it's led them to create the regulatory system that we have now. And so when you're approaching it like that, these people do not like our competition, or at least the people that we're fighting against. they want nothing, right? They don't, Bitcoin's fine because there's nothing really backing Bitcoin, right? There's nothing they can do. But like in the stablecoin space, I think they're most afraid that these coins, these dollars become like the default medium of exchange, right? So if let's just assume you build like a Cash App that's built on top of Frax, right? That would be very worrying for them. Same thing for like using USDC or Tether or something.
But isn't like expanding the use of stablecoins is kind of by proxy expanding the use of U.S. monetary dominance?
Yeah, but yes, you're right. But they want it in the sense of they want. Okay, so it's not the problem of expanding the dollar supply. That's fine, but they don't want they don't want token-based money outside the U.S. government's power to be issued. So like there are no private people issuing like dollars, like actual cash dollars, right? Or like nickels or something, right? That's all done by the government. And now that we have these stable coins, since they're token based, it takes power away from the government. I mean, those tokens, the token based money is super powerful. I think this is what people love about it and why it's so important to the ecosystem is that you can take it anywhere with you. It's pseudo-anonymous. It's just a better system, but it's outside the government control, and that's the thing that I think they're most angry about, especially if you go and read the literature and the notes that they've written.
Yeah, well, for sure.
It's all about control.
At the end of the day, like that's what government wants. Yeah, it's like their mandate.
But I think Frax is going to be fine. Honestly, like I think this is way overblown. These like leaks of text, get pushed out and. Draft language usually will not, make it like that to the end.
But it still is definitely something important to keep an eye on, which leads to the first governance proposal I want to cover. It was FIP 111, which is participating in the Gitcoin funding round. This was authored by the Frax core team, and it authorizes $150,000 worth of Frax max donation to the next Gitcoin funding round at the discretion of the team. On Snapshot, the vote passed unanimously with 20 million votes. Gitcoin round 15 ends September 22nd, which is tomorrow. And I did talk to Sam, so a little bit of alpha here. And I asked Sam, what do you think you guys are going to fund? And he said, he was like, all this bill stuff is very timely, because they're looking to fund political advocacy groups like Coin Center and the EFF. So that's where the Frax money is going, and I think as I approve of it, I'm sure like especially with everything going on, the community will approve of it. I can't imagine anybody that doesn't. I don't want to speak for the community, or if there's like something else like the community would like have in mind to fund, but considering the timeliness of this current draft bill, like. Sending our funds towards Coin Center in the EFF sounds like the move. Yeah,
I mean, I think we just need to make it out of this midterm cycle because if we get to like a split Congress, right, or the Republicans take over, something like no legislation is going to get passed for the next 2 years, and it gives Frax more runway to go out and build and just become entrenched deeper. And so funding people like Coin Center, Coin Center is like literally like 5 people, honestly. Like they do so much work for the crypto space, and it's a small group. So they're always happy to take donations, and they put out some really well thought out opinions in the wake of these things. So I hopefully see something from Coin Center about the stablecoin bill today. Yeah.
While we're living on chain, they're living in DC fighting for us, so shout out Coin Center.
Yeah.
Next up, continuing on from last week, we have a FIP 112, which is the migration or unlock of the Tempo Frax gauge. This was authored by FraxEG, better known as Crypto Grills on Twitter, Fraximus OG. The proposal was to unlock the Tempo Frax gauge in order to earn higher rewards in the Tempo DAO Convex Vault. The vote, this vote had a lot of participation. It had over 47 million FXS voted towards this, but it was rejected 42 million to 5.3 million. It's pretty, cool to see like such high participation and like people care about something like this, and it actually ended up spawning FIP 114. So I guess this was to migrate Tempo Frax gauge stakers to the Stacks product. So what are your thoughts on like? I mean, I didn't see the unlock passing because then like that's just more Frax. There would just be out that could be sold, and same thing with more Tempo to be sold. I think it would be likely for like that to like escape the Tempo and Frax ecosystems. So I'm happy there was constructive conversation there to create a new proposal, which was FIP 114, which was to migrate the Frax Tempo gauge stakers to the Stacks product.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think unlike some of the other votes, C2TP allowed for split voting in this. Like I'm looking at the migration vote, and
doesn't he always allow for split voting?
I think there's some things that like aren't there some things that he'll just vote unilaterally on that they don't?
Or maybe that's just the community voting unilaterally on.
Because I know like I think there's some things that he just takes up and is like, we need this for the convex ecosystem and doesn't allow for voting. But it looks like this one, they put it to vote inside the convex system. And even the convex people, like convex holders as a whole, voted against this. So there was only 2% support within convex, which, after that, you look at the other people. So like the top three voters controlled, 26 million for convex, 6.2 million for fraxmaxi.eth. And then 4 million for Fraxape. The largest voter who voted for this was Galactic.eth, who had 2.5 million Frax shares. So there just wasn't community support for this. But I think the migration, like if they can migrate it and keep it locked, that's probably a different story than just fully unlocking it.
Yeah, which leads to the next proposal, which is I think there's two different types of migrations happening here. So with FIP 114, which is migrate Tempo Frax gauge stakers to the Stacks product. This is authored by Tempo core team member Lux. The proposal aims to migrate existing non-Stacks owned locked LP tokens to the Stacks Convex Vault staking contract and lock those tokens for 3 months, and also migrate existing pre-Convex Vault Stacks owned locked LP tokens to the Stacks Convex Vault staking contract and maintain them during the current lock duration. That was a mouthful. So there's basically two different types of Stacks LP tokens that are getting migrated, and so the idea is to migrate one type, and those would be locked for 3 months, and then migrate the other type, which would be locked for the current lock duration. To be honest, a little confusing even for me. I think the main thing here is instead of just keeping these tokens locked in the Frax gauge, and instead of just unlocking them into the wild, this is kind of a compromise. This is a compromise middle ground where basically these LP tokens will be migrated to the Stacks Convex product.
I think this will be interesting because there's two for votes, right? They can either migrate it and lock those for 3 months, or they can migrate it and lock this is the current lock duration. Yeah,
so this is there's 2 for things. So there's 2 actions happening.
So is it separate? Are these separate?
No, these are they're the same. So both of them would happen for 4.
Oh, okay. That makes a bit more sense. I thought it was some split vote for 4, you had to vote for both.
Yeah, and I'm actually checking the proposal. I was organizing this again last night, and I'm checking the forum now. It looks like Dennis responded. I'm going to take a quick read of this. Thanks, Lux. Thanks, Lux, for your proposal and making clear what the position of the Tempo DAO Stacks is regarding the migration of users that are locked Tempo Frax LP for up to 3 years, and that would like to migrate to Stacks. I understand that Stacks does not want to take over the 3-year locked LP tokens, because that could lead to the XLP token to unpeg in the event of a large portion on the migrators dump the XLP token in the curve pool. Stacks will then need to wait for the LP tokens to unlock before they can restore the peg. Waiting 3 months for restoring the peg would be fine. Waiting for 3 years is not. Unfortunately, this is not acceptable from a Frax perspective to reduce the lock time for most LP tokens for more than 30 months, from more than 30 months to 3 months. This proposal is effectively the same as FIP 112, except with a 3-month delay. We can only accept the migration when the lock period will not be reduced. Okay. So Dennis is, standing his ground that no reduce and lock time for the LP tokens. That's so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the argument is once they switch over to stacks, there's then liquidity for those LPs who then can go and dump it into Curve, right? Mm-hmm. And that wouldn't be good, and it would break the peg. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, there's base in this thread. I'm just going to read the three because Lux responds and Dennis and Lux again. So Lux has a response. Thank you for your reply, Dennis. You say that this proposal is effectively the same as FIP 112, but there are important differences. The first being FIP 12 unlocks everyone, and each user takes possession of their own LP tokens, and they will likely exit through the Curve pool sooner rather than later and liquidate their LP tokens. The second point is FIP 114 transfers locked LP tokens from the current locks to a 3-month lock, and then at the end of the 3 months, if the user have exited by trading in their XLP tokens, TempoDAO would take possession of the LP tokens, at which point we will restore the Curve pool peg if necessary. We have no intention of liquidating the LP tokens. Okay, that's interesting. Dennis's response: every migrator can sell XLP tokens in the Curve pool and gets unlocked LP tokens in return. They will then liquidate those LP tokens to exit. After 3 months, stacks will restore the peg with LP tokens that are unlocked. Net effect is that all the migrators have exited and have liquidated their LP tokens. The depth of the Curve pool is, of course, limited, so some might wait till Stacks has restored the peg after 3 months to get a better price. After 3 months, Stacks has enough unlocked LP to allow every migrator to exit via the Curve pool. And then Lux responds, yes, and again, the key difference between FIP 112 and FIP 114 is that TempoDAO looks at the Frax Tempo LP as protocol-owned liquidity and not necessarily as a farming position. We won't liquidate or try to migrate as soon as the APY drops. So if I had to summarize this, the position of Dennis is that he's concerned that, after 3 months people would just exit, and Lux is trying to, mitigate those concerns by saying, I think it's really important, the last part, this is protocol-owned liquidity, we're not going to sell this. This isn't a farming position. This is a part of our treasury assets. So, we're getting closer to a compromise in this conversation. I think it, also brings up an important issue of when is it necessary? When does it qualify for a locked gauge to unlock, or when does it qualify for a locked gauge to migrate? Does it qualify if the migration happens to go to a contract that's locked for the same amount of time as the Frax gauge, or is it something else? These conversations are still ongoing.
Well, I think this one is different because they're changing. You would get the whole point of Stacks is that those LP tokens that you would give to Frax for 30 months or however long it is. With Stacks, you get a receipt token back, and you can dump that afterwards. So, I guess the thinking here is that they're changing it from 30 to 3 months, and then they're giving everybody liquidity in the form of these LP tokens, and so that would immediately lead to pretty significant peg breaking on on Curve. But I think from what we've seen so far, let's go back through all the ones that have been unlocked. So you had Pitch, and you had the IQ pools, which were upgraded, right? So I guess if there's an upgrade in the contract, or if there's a bug or something that requires an unlock, that would happen. For the Fractures pool, that needed to be brought into the gauge system. So that could almost be called an upgrade as well too. So that's also a necessary justification. And then what was the other one? So when we switched from Uniswap v2 Frax USDC to Uniswap v3 Frax USDC, that was another one where they unlocked the gauges early.
Yeah. So protocol native upgrades
Yes.
qualify for an unlock, but if it's like protocols outside of the native primitives or native pairs, then it's still up for debate, which is what we're having now.
Yeah, it looks like, in all three of those instances, except for Frax shares pool moving from outside the gauge into the gauge, the other two ones had so the Uniswap pool, the Uniswap upgrade from V2 to V3 was necessary to increase the ability to hold the peg.
Peg, yeah.
And then the pitch and the IQ ones were a bug in the minting or a bug.
They're a bug.
Yeah, remember there was like a bug in the farming contract, and so they voted to unlock and moved it over. And they went from the V1 contracts to V2 contracts. Yeah. So I think if there's a bug in the contract, we should unlock the stakes to allow people to move over. If there's a protocol upgrade that like provides significant support for the peg, like the V2 to V3, that should also be provided for. And then if something is, and then I guess the third thing would be if something is outside the gauge, moving it inside the gauge. In the case of like Frax shares pool. But outside of that, I don't foresee anything else being unlocked reasonably. Yeah.
Well, the discussion's ongoing, and we'll have an update on that next week. But speaking of Uniswap V3, we have your proposal up next. FIP 113, integrate Uni V3 staker and add gauge for Uni V3 FXS Frax. This is authored by yours truly, Sam. Goal is to encourage arbitrageurs on-chain to keep markets tighter with FXS rewards. It's currently up for a vote, and September 25th. And so far, I checked last night, it was 6K who voted.
Yeah.
And now...
I'll vote on it. Yeah, I'll vote on it today, but it doesn't have quorum yet. I think there's some issues. So I've been reading more about the Uniswap V3 staking contract, and I think there's some issues with how the distribution of rewards works. So I think that potentially there's a way to game the system where
as always.
So if you're just providing concentrated liquidity in like one tick, you can take the majority of all the rewards. So I don't know if this one's like open for abuse or not, but it's probably something to just sit on for a while until there's more support. I think I did see in chat the other day Sam say something about Frax Swap V2. Let me see if I can find this. Because somebody asked about like concentrated liquidity positions, and Sam came back and said something like, "Yeah, we're looking at this for Frax V2."
Yeah, no, Sam has mentioned that before, that V2 would have concentrated liquidity.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that if it just means having a new version, maybe when there's Frax Swap V2, whatever that is, we'll have something. But for the moment, I think that things will just stay as they are.
Yeah. Most likely, but always good to have these discussions. You never know. And with that.
I will say that this wasn't a governance issue, but Sam did bring it up in chat yesterday. Is that the majority of the aggregators, so Matcha and 1inch and what's the other one? It starts with a P. PairSwap. None of them have added FraxSwap yet to their aggregation.
Did 1inch? Wait, who did you say? Matcha?
Oh no, sorry. 1inch is added, right? FraxSwap.
Yeah, 1inch is added.
Yeah, but the other aggregators haven't added the other FraxSwap pools yet.
I think PairSwap, you have to. I talked to Monir about it. I think they do it in a permissionless way. So I think the Frax core team has to do something. I gotta talk to them about it. I gotta talk to both sides about it. But PairSwap, I think you put something in the code and then it catches the signal.
Yeah, because Sam brought this up when last night in the chat. Let me see if I can find his message. Yeah, so he said if you're part of the 1inch Matcha or PairSwap communities, it would help to directly reach out to them on their Discord and Twitter because it would show there's organic demand for FraxSwap routing. People were talking about how most of the there was that dump yesterday, and most of the volume went through the V3 contract, which shouldn't happen. It should go through the FraxSwap contract because it's deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure how Matcha and 1inch are with adding new dexes, but yeah, like I said, I know Paraswap is like permissionless, so always it's good to make noise within the communities. I don't see a reason why they don't add FraxSwap, especially if there's so much interest in FXS. Like, it seems like in their interest to add FraxSwap, but at the end of the day, it's all about bringing it to their attention.
So, do you have any thoughts before we are? I'm guessing we're getting close to wrapping up. Do you have any thoughts on like the Frax shares price before we head out? Like we're sitting at like, I don't know. We're not at 6 months lows, but definitely, the 6 month low was like 390, and we're sitting at 460. So I mean, is this just some like sell off that's taking place, and
FXS is just a very hated coin. It just has this, like I don't know what else to say about it. It's just so funny because I was like I saw like old tweets of like quote unquote, thought leaders in crypto, like saying, the decentralized stablecoin is going to be the biggest thing in the future. Hashtag Luna, like, why don't you, like, all these, like, basically quote unquote, like basically shills behind Luna, and they had all these like hopes and like imaginations for it. And then they just all disappeared. And then when like something comes along like Frax that's like actually working and it is actually the best bet towards their thesis, they're just like, nah. Or they're like, let me just farm and dump it. Like, what snakes? What snakes?
I just don't think it can. I don't think it can go much lower.
Yeah. Not financial advice.
Not financial advice. It's my own personal views. I mean, I don't like if you look back at the previous year when we went down to like $1.50. I don't think that's ever happening again, just because of the amount of revenues that we have now. And so I do think there's a floor on where
there's definitely a floor between like the revenues and the buybacks. But the built-in help. Algo-Stables are still the most hated. And it's fun, like they talk, and even if like you fight the FUD, like it's always the FUD that makes its way up the Twitter algorithm because people love polarization and controversy. That's what attracts them. Yeah, it's just like it's a matter of like how can we like flip the script, and like if there's something that can happen for there to be change the wave for more positive momentum of FXS. So we have like DeFi Trinity, pushing that. Frax Ferries, Frax ETH. I think like probably the best bet on that is like just like beating the drum that Frax ETH is your best liquid staking option for ETH staking derivatives. I think that is our immediate best hope, quote unquote. If we like push that, and then as like a community saying like this is the best option, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think it'll be okay, and I think we'll look back on this period as like
a great opportunity,
like the best opportunity to buy Frax shares for the past 20 years. So,
the Frax. I think the most important thing is the Frax most faithful is still standing strong and standing their ground.
Yeah.
And on that note, that was a Frax Check, your weekly Frax vibe check. The vibe was a little this week, but we're gonna bring it back. You can't have your highs without your lows, and we're still gonna be here reporting along. And don't forget to subscribe. We are over at 800 subscribers. We're really gaining a lot of momentum, so that's good. Hit that bell for notifications. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Flywheelpod. Join our Telegram group at Flywheelpod. You can follow me on Twitter at DeFi Dave 22.
And you can find me at traders_insight. Don't forget, we got a great episode with Cami Russo coming out today. So pop on over, and you'll find that in your podcast feed.
And we'll see you next week.
Peace.